Code Talker's mansion. Materials were packed into 2 containers and hidden in the jungle southwest of the mansion. You have to recover those containers. The pickup crew coming for those documents is none other than XOF. That's right. They're still active, even after Skullface's death. Now that he's no longer in charge, their original chain of command has been restored. Meaning if XOF gets those documents, Code Talker's research ends up in Cipher's hands. According to Code Talker, the research papers stored in that mansion account for over 50 years of study. The problem is the vocal cord parasites. If the papers documenting that research fall into Cipher's hands, they'll take another long, hard look at them. The ethnic cleansers we thought were history will become a reality. America, Zero, will have a weapon far more powerful than any nuke. Even worse, if this knowledge were to leak, the world, humanity, can't be entrusted with this kind of power. Recover the containers before the enemy extraction choppers arrive.
The one that covers the parasite that lives on the surface of the skull's bodies is what gives them their power. Similar to my children who live in my skin. I modified the parasites I isolated from the body of that old man, differentiating them with various abilities. One that can blend perfectly into its surroundings by exposing the pigments in its cells at will. Another that, by harboring multiple species of metallic archaea, can oxidize and reduce metal. Isolating the one that covers and transplanting it into an artificial medium should provide the same abilities as the skulls, but they can only subsist within a human body. Once transplanted into the medium, they will eventually die. Another thing, the weakness of the one that covers is desiccation. Their surface moisture loss is greater than ours. The reason they give off mist is to alleviate this by releasing the salts inside them as microparticles. Water vapor condenses around them, appearing as mist. But this dries out the atmosphere until they cannot even produce mist. And once their supply of water from the host runs out, the parasites are in danger. They, along with their host, enter a form of suspended animation. However, a similar effect occurs if they come into contact with a large amount of water. Rain, for instance, the one that covers will temporarily abandon other processes in its eagerness to absorb the water. Make the weather your ally.
ตรงนี้ต้องคานไปเมื่อกี้ผมเล่นครั้งที่แล้วว่าผมค่อยๆย่องไปปุ๊บเอ็นแบบฮะอันนี้ใครเนี่ยเลยอ่ะมันเริ่มตาดีขึ้นแล้วเพราะว่าเราเล่นหลายชั่วโมงเกินมั้ง
ใช่ผมก็เชื่อแหละว่ามันเริ่มเก่งขึ้นแล้วว่าเขาแม่งวิ่งนะครับจะไปแข่งอะไรสักอย่าง
ชาบูต้าเลยอ่ะเมื่อก่อนมันแบบยังโอนเอียงไง
โอนเอียง
แต่เดี๋ยวนี้เนี่ยนั่นไงคอมแมนเดอร์วิ่งออกมาแล้ว
เกมรู้ได้ไงอ่ะ
เพราะมันหนูน้อยหมวกแดงเราก็ต้องเอามันก่อนที่แบบว่ามันจะเข้าในกลุ่มพวกนั้นให้ได้เพราะครั้งที่แล้วผมเล่นมันเข้ากลุ่มปุ๊บจี้หมดปุ๊บแล้วไอ้ตัวเกาะมันไม่ยอมไงแต่ตัวที่เหลือยอมหมดเลยนะจี้ทีเดียวร่วงแบบ6-7 คนเลยวันนี้แหละ
มันกำลังสงสัย
เราโอ้
ยเก็บดาวไปด้วย
ให้ดีๆเอาไปใกล้ๆก่อน
I believe you can do
ตรงนี้แหละ
บินไปเลย
เอาเป็นเวิร์มโฮลไม่เป็นไรหรอก
โอ้โหโก้อีกแล้วว่าใช้เวิร์มโฮลอะอะไรวะไม่สมจริงเลยอะไม่เล่นอย่างนี้อะ
There's something I've been wondering. Why are you called Code Talker? During World War II, the U.S. military used the languages of different tribes, including the Navajo, as codes, right? I know the term Code Talker was used to mean people sent to the battlefield to speak in those codes. Were you one of them?
Our mother tongue was indeed used for war, but I did not go. I was already over the conscription age. However, I was made to help craft the codes that were spoken. So in a wider sense, you could call me a code talker for that. Navajo is a complex language, and virtually no one outside the U.S. speaks it. They must have thought it was the perfect language to use as a code.
Yeah, in the end, the Japanese never cracked it. The Cipher is king in information warfare.
Of course, they didn't simply speak in Navajo. They created substitutions for words according to a code book, and then translated those into our language. Young Diné was sent to the front lines of the Pacific Theater as code talkers. To fight is an honor for the Diné. They were the pride of our people. But I cannot say this history brings me joy. Words are alive. When they are spoken, life is breathed into them. They become a part of the listener. Our words were transformed into lifeless ciphers and used for war. This, after the Black Ana spent generations suppressing the language.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I guess we shouldn't be calling you Code Talker, huh?
No, I do not mind. The reason Skullface called me Code Talker was because I also am responsible for coding language into the vocal cord parasites. I am the same as those young warriors, used for a cipher's sake. I must never forget that. The name, Code Talker, is a lesson carved into my being.
โอ้โหยืนเปิดอย่างหล่อเลยนะทุยกดผิดใช่ไหมตอบ
กดปกติเนี่ยมันเป็นอย่างนี้อยู่แล้วอะ
อ๋อเหรอบ
างทีมันก็อยากยืนบ้างไงมันเมื่อย
อ๋อไอ้คุณคานแม่งทั้งเกมเลย
ดูดีดึงไปโคตรเยอะเลย
ยกไปเป็นตี้เลยอ่ะ
ทักษะไปนั่นก็คือไปเอาคอนเทนเนอร์ซึ่งเป็นงานวิจัยของโค้ดทอล์กเกอร์เราต้องไปเอาก่อนที่ฮอมันจะมาเก็บ
ไปทันไหมน่ะเสร็จแล้วตรงนี้ตั้งนาน
แล้วก็มีอีกแคสหนึ่งนั่นก็คือจะต้องเอามันขึ้นโดยที่พวกมันไม่เห็น
You said Skullface ordered you to weaponize the vocal cord parasites. But you also said he wasn't the reason.
And he wasn't. I was seduced by the parasites. That is a fact.
How? You mean from your curiosity as a scientist?
That I cannot deny. But there is more to it. The story goes back to the 19th century, to my earliest memory. One day, a man from the government visited our Hogan, our home. I cried as he yanked me from my mother's arms and took me away to an Indian boarding school. From that day forward, I became George. This was the name my teacher gave me. I was forced to give up my Diné name, forbidden from speaking anything but English. If we dared utter a word of filthy Navajo, the teacher made us eat a bar of soap.
Yeah, that was the U.S. government's education policy for Native Americans.
To erase our words was like erasing our people. Their education was tantamount to ethnic cleansing. Over time, the overt persecution of our language stopped. But to this day, it continues to be eaten away by the lingua franca, that is English. Many of the Diné outside the reservations can speak nothing else.
Visibility in the jungle isn't great. Watch out. You could run into the enemy at any time.
Please, feel the roots. The branches become one with the forest. The forest is aware of the enemy's noise. You must be too. And it isn't just our language. Across the world, minority languages are being destroyed by dominant languages. Many are on the verge of extinction.
Enter the vocal cord parasites.
Yes, I began thinking that minority languages needed some sort of deterrent against dominant languages. In order that their peoples and cultures would survive. It was then that I came across literature at the Foundation claiming that man acquired language thanks to a type of parasite, one that distinguishes between languages as a precursor to reproduction. If I could just resurrect it, make it more pathogenic, I would have my deterrent against English. But I failed to hide that aim from Skullface. He noticed. Yes, I wanted to retaliate against the English language, though never did I intend to actually use it as he planned. You know how the story ends. I was forced to study how to make the parasites compatible with all the world's languages. All but English.
However, he in fact secretly isolated an English strain.
I will not be held prisoner by the man's phantom. The English strain must not be allowed to exist either. I have no doubt Skullface's plan is almost complete. At that point, I will no longer be of use to him. I must leave behind this record at least. A record of how the ancient vocal cord parasites became these abominable ethnic cleansing parasites. I believe he has two purposes for the ethnic cleansing parasites. The first, as their name suggests, is ethnic cleansing. This conflict between East and West that envelops the world will not last much longer. Once the Cold War ends, and the weight of America and the Soviet Union is lifted away, the ethnic conflicts they kept suppressed will all rise to the surface. It is not difficult to imagine that the radical sides will begin cleansing their adversaries. What if an ethnic cleansing parasite matching the language of the aggressors were to be unleashed? The aggressors would be washed off the earth. At the very least, the idea that retaliation could eradicate your people would prove a powerful deterrent. The second purpose is the Englishization of the world. To cipher the organization, this is probably their main use. Man thinks in words, or rather, words are man's very means of thinking. If you erase a word representing some concept, the concept itself disappears from the world. Nishone means beautiful in Navajo, but the image that comes to mind when we say Nishone differs from the Blagana's beautiful. An azure sky, a rolling landscape, lush greenery. The meaning we place in Nishone has its roots in Dene culture. If we lose the word Nishone, the images of our beautiful homeland would be washed away into oblivion along with it, just as Orwell indicated years ago. Cipher, being based in America, is pushing Englishization for this very reason. Suppose all 5 billion people on this planet come to read, speak, and think in English. Their wills could also be streamlined under English. Cipher's control would be all the easier. Economic governance would progress in leaps and bounds. The ethnic cleansing parasites would be a great aid in accomplishing this goal. There is no need to destroy every language besides English. All they need to do is weaken other dominant languages competing with it. Russian, Chinese, Arabic. If people know they risk their lives speaking such languages, they will flock to the lingua franca that is English. Cipher need not even focus attention on smaller languages. After all, they are already being eaten away by English. Business, education, film, commodities. English has permeated every area of global society. I can see this when I look at young Dene. Some of them have already lost their grasp of the Navajo language. It is said that over 2,000 languages of the world are facing extinction. This very moment, cultural concepts and forms of expression are disappearing forever. The spread of electronic networks gives greater meaning to Englishization. Networks have no national borders. By basing them on a single language, they can penetrate deeper into and between people. That basic point of unity provides the ideal environment for someone who aims to control people's wills. But how does this differ from building the Tower of Babel?
จังหวะนี้แหละอย่ารอ
The weather will clear shortly.
ระยะเซฟคือหันหลัง30 เมตรแต่ผมขอ40เลยเพราะว่ามันเป็นแคส
อ๋อไป yes
40
โอเค
Target extraction confirmed. That leaves one target to go. Take care of the next one. Boss, our early warning radar just picked up the enemy choppers. We'll keep you informed of their ETA. Hurry up and extract the target.
You can't go firing on the XOF choppers. If we attack XOF now, it'll be a declaration of war against Cipher itself. That time will come, but it's not now.
The ethnic cleansing parasites attempt to rob man of his words. Such irony. It was the vocal cord parasites that gave words to him in the first place. Ancient man had no language, unable to produce complex sounds due to the structure of the throat. He could communicate only through simple vocalizations and gestures. Then the vocal cord parasites infected his larynx. Man's transition to walking upright did not gift him solely with intelligence, but also with his voice. At the time, the vocal cord parasites never harmed man. They merely took a small measure of nourishment. In fact, you could call it a symbiotic relationship.
อ้าวดีๆใช้เบอร์โฮวาร์ปมา
มีวาร์ปได้แต่เรายังไม่มีเวิร์มโฮสแบงค์
ดูขอโทษ
โอ้โหมันไปเห็นแล้วอ่ะโอ้โหขนาดดีๆปล่อยมาแป๊บเดียวมันวิ่งกลับเลยอ่ะโอ้ยนิดเดียวเองอ่ะแล้วไอ้ที่มาร์กอยู่มันก็มาแถวนี้แล้วอ่ะมันวิ่งกลับกันเร็วมากอ่ะแล้วให้ดีๆเห่าต่อก็ไม่ได้ว่าดีๆต้องมาหาเราตรงนี้เอา3 คนนี้ออกอ่ะ
Some animal species use particular vocalization patterns to attract a female and reproduce. Songbirds, certain insects, and also the vocal cord parasites. The difference is that the parasites themselves did not produce sounds. Rather, they had their hosts, man, do it for them. Once secure on the human host vocal cords, a male vocal cord parasite caused the host to produce a certain sound pattern, something like a warble of a bird. Meanwhile, females parasitizing other host pharynxes need only wait. Upon hearing the sound pattern of an attractive mate, they would manipulate their hosts into making contact with the person it came from. The female traveled through his host's saliva to the other host's vocal cords, where the male was waiting and the pair copulated. We can only imagine how the female manipulated his host, but it was probably through smell. Smells traveled directly to the limbic system via the olfactory cilia in the nasal cavity. Volatile compounds released by the female would stimulate the limbic system, which controls instincts, making the host feel amorous. This kind of sexual selection naturally led to competition between the male parasites. Males that had their hosts produce sounds perceived by females as more attractive succeeded in copulating and producing offspring. Evolutionary traits caused by sexual selection are curious. The peacock's feathers, the mannequin's dance, the firefly's luminescence pattern. even with courtship behaviors that are not advantageous to survival. Those individuals that excel in them produce offspring, and it escalates with each generation. The same was true of the vocal cord parasites.
Target extraction confirmed.
Courtship vocalization rhythms and intonations became more sophisticated, and in order for man to produce such sounds, they had to alter his vocal organs by lowering the position of the larynx and developing resonating chambers. They enabled more complex pronunciations, but that was not all. The vocal cord parasites activated a transcription factor that would later control man's language ability. A protein that, due to its appearance, is called forkhead box protein P2, or FOXP2. Activating this transcription factor led to the development of brain function capable of creating sophisticated frequency changes. This was the pinnacle of the vocal cord parasite's prosperity. However, this sophisticated pronunciation control was too useful for man to ignore. Once human sexual activity ceased to be only seasonal, and having lost pigment-based sexual characteristics, distinctive vocalizations became the most effective means for humans to attract mates as well. Combined with logic pathways hardwired into the brain, or universal grammar, it was not long before advanced communication was possible. This was the birth of language. Luckily for man, it was around this time that a particular retrovirus was circulating. While not lethal, it infected not only man, but the vocal cord parasites as well. It is presumed that this virus removed part of the parasite's DNA and reverse transcribed it into man's reproductive cells. It was a factor. Among the genes it transcribed were the ones responsible for the production of language. The vocal cord parasite's vocalization genes were written into the human genome. The parasites were no longer of any use to man now. Man could use his voice as he pleased when he pleased, hindering the parasite's courtship vocalizations. Having lost their opportunity to reproduce, the parasites died out, leaving behind only the transcribed genes. The vocal cord parasites were once in symbiosis with man. Its genes even became a part of his. Humans and parasites are extremely close. As such, it will be extremely difficult for man's immune system to eliminate the vocal cord parasites. Even cutting them out will be no simple matter, which is exactly why these ethnic cleansing parasites are such a formidable weapon.
มีอีกวิธีหนึ่งก็คือแบบว่าก็ต้องดึงไอ้พวกนั้นมาแล้วเราก็ตามดีๆมาข้างหลังอะแล้วก็ให้มาถึงตรงนี้แล้วให้ดีๆดึงพวกนี้ไปด้วยอะเราก็ดึงไปพร้อมกันเลยอะก็ต้องให้แบงค์เล่นนะโอเคนะ
ผมจะโยนระเบิดเลยตรงทีเดียวเกโอโนเทไม่มีทางให้จากผมหรอกไม่มีทางที่ผมจะโนเทเด็ดขาดขนาดธรรมดาผมยังทำไม่ได้เลยเอ็ม
แล้วแท้ซึ่งก็คือเกาะคอนเทนเนอร์กลับนั่นก็คือมิชชั่นนี้น่าจะเป็นมิชชั่นที่คนรู้ว่าเกาะคอนเทนเนอร์กลับได้แต่ผมก็ดันไปดูทริปทิกแล้วก็เลยรู้เลยตั้งนานแล้วก็เลยแต่แผนก็คือแบบว่าต้องให้มันดึงไปเรื่อยๆก็คงต้องแบงค์นะ
ขอบคุณนะ
ช่วยหน่อยแบงค์
impossible ไม่ขนาดรีออบเจนผมเล่นแบบให้มันดีๆไม่ได้สักครั้งเลยอ่ะ
อ้าวแล้วที่แบงค์คอมเมนต์ไปว่าโอ้โหให้มันดีๆก็ได้นะครับอ่ะหมายความว่าไงอ่ะผมเล่นแบบเกรียนๆไปแต่ถ้าต้องการให้ดีๆก็บอกครับเล่นได้อ่ะหมายความว่าไงผมไม่ได้ยินเลย
Exfiltrate the area. Boss, we got Code Talker's research materials back in one piece. The medical team has them under lock and key in the quarantine facility. The materials should help their research into the vocal cord parasites. Cipher won't be getting their hands on them now.